as efficient as even a solar panel or something, just to rest there for a few minutes, charge up, and then go on your way. I don't think the debris robots are going to be pulling people in and like grinding them up so it can power itself when it could just go charge back at some little base station.
You, my friend, have a Wall-E mindset, and I commend you for that. But let me tell you, the plans are there to have robots.
It's possible. Yeah, in a dystopic future,
eating
we
dead
could have
people,
robots
live
eating
people.
us.
They're going to hunt people. The Pentagon even has it, non-cooperative humans. And that's from 2008.
Then we're going to get to do some robot hunting.
If you want the future, you must fight for it. This is The War Room with Owen Schroyer at Infowars.com/show.
So we have the left flailing around. Oh, Russia, Russia, Russia. Meanwhile, Putin's not worried about us. What's Putin worried about?
Fixing Russia.
Well, that, and he's worried about robots that are going to eat us. All right. Putin, this is out of the Daily Mail. Putin reveals fears that robots with artificial intelligence will one day eat us, and asks the head of Russia's largest tech firm how soon it will happen. So he was meeting at Russia's firm, what's it called? Yandex, the internet firm Yandex. He was getting a tour of the place at the company's Moscow headquarters, and he asked the head of the group, Ardaki Volsh, I'm butchering that. Sorry, Mr. Volsh. Don't send a robot to eat me. The potential of when AI will get, I guess, sentient enough to come and eat us. So you literally ask the guy, when will the technology eat us? And the guy says, oh, don't worry about that, Mr. Putin. I hope never. We don't get eaten by excavators. And Putin goes, excavators don't think, bro. Wake up.
This is kind of like what Elon Musk has said. He goes,
exactly. He's expressing the same concern.
Talking to Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk is like, Zuckerberg doesn't know what he's doing, what he's talking about. None of these people are afraid of what we're creating. And what we're creating here could be used for good, but you have to make sure that it doesn't get out of control.
And, people are freaking out. Ha ha, Putin thinks robots are going to eat us. Ha 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 ha. But let's look at some things that actually are eating things. Robots, I mean. Scavenger robot eats living organisms. Soft-bodied foraging droid could be used to clean up contaminated water. British robotics experts created a soft robot with a mouth and gut. Can consume living matter and convert it into electrical energy. Now, that seems pretty, it's eating biomatter. There's a lot of biomatter out there in the world. All right, that makes sense. This is on Gizmodo. Remember Eater, the military robot that was supposed to eat humans? Here's a little image of the Eater robot.
Nice little trimming thing.
It's got a little gripper and a chainsaw, and a little ladder and an arm, and it's got its bin for combustibles right here where it grabs things and pulls them in. Here's a top view of it. You can see it grabs. Oh, it's just grabbing. It's foraging for vegetables. This one just only eats vegetables.
It's a vegan robot.
This is not a robo-panic. As it skips through the woods munching on a human lollipop. This is just a funny article looking at how these things come about. And so this is what a lot of people have with robots. How are they going to be powered? And this is one way to do it. Power them through organic matter. Here's an article from Popular Science back in 2011. Meet Japan's earthquake search and rescue robot. Now this one, guys, you can go to that article, scroll to the image where it shows how, look, it's pulling the victim into its little area.
And pop your head off.
What if that victim's dead? Well, does it just eat the victim to power it? And I mean, nobody's going to say anything differently. That there it is, the search and rescue robot. But what if it's just tasked with pulling out bodies, and they say, hey, if you need some extra energy, you're in with a bunch of concrete, just go ahead and eat that body. It's okay. It's okay. Here's another article.
I don't see that happening too soon.
Oh, of course not. Nobody sees anything happening. It's all created it's all to help us. We don't have a population problem, do we? No, nobody's saying there's a population problem.
They burn babies to heat hospitals.
Yeah, well, they do. Pull that one up, please. It was British hospitals burned aborted babies to heat them. RoboPoo lab creates robot that eats sugary food for fuel and uses the toilet like a human. This is the EchoBot 3, digests organic matter and visits a litter tray. Digest sugar using sludge microbes. The first generation of robots that will need to use toilets. Now, do we really need robots using toilets?
It's probably making alcohol out of the sugar.
Exactly. and excretes the waste as sludge. It was the first robot designed to eat and get rid of waste just like a human.
There's the article from the Telegraph about aborted babies being incinerated to heat the hospitals.
So, you know, we have been using humans as a source of food and not even as robots, just as, you know, creepy British
Just
people.
burn them.
Will Google's new robot be used to hunt non-cooperative humans? Smaller version of the big dog fulfills 2008 Pentagon request. A new robot designed by the U.S. Army by Google fits the criteria of the request to develop systems that can detect and track non-cooperative humans in pursuit evasion scenarios. Now, what if Big Dog gets hungry after he's tracked and killed some non-cooperative humans? Well, he's just going to eat the humans. So Putin's right. They're building human robots. They're going to build those human robots.
And that big dog's going to remember every time it got kicked over.
That's true, and it's going to go after it. If you ever watch
this is their new one.
The videos of Big Dog.
This video here is pretty interesting.
Oh, this one just rolls. Oh, look at that!
It can jump
look how
over
fast
stuff.
it moves.
Watch it jump over things.
Yeah, this is all part of the future. Ooh, look at that! It could do the limbo. Dang! And Boston Dynamics. This group is literally creating. They'll be creating. Well, not yet, but once they figure out how to power these things with humans. See, the Japanese are perfecting that technology, the eating of organic matter to power yourself. There he's carrying his own poop bucket. Oh, he just jumped over. Wow, look at that. Goes downstairs. A loner in pairs. Everyone loves the robotic human killer. The human killer. Oh, look at that. It could take a ramp just like the Dukes of Hazzard. Uneven terrain with impressive balance.
Just like us.
Chasing young people through the snow, young uncooperative humans, jumping for joy. So the robots are here. They're coming after us. And when people like Elon Musk and Vladimir Putin talk about it, they aren't trying to scare people. They're looking at what's out there. That article from Japan, that's from 2011, the Japan search and rescue robots. Now, I believe the Japanese were probably inventing robots to really search and rescue people. But when you're pulling bodies into your cavity, okay, it's literally like the scoops are on our way. We've gone into the Soylent Green world where humans are being used as the power supply for the AI technology. We saw that in The Matrix. They were taking the babies from birth and keeping them and using their body heat to power these computers. So this is not out of the realm of a possibility to happen. You obviously think it's fine and we should have more robots, right?
No, I just don't think that humans or biomass is necessarily the best power source. These robots could instead be using...
there's 7 billion of us.
There are 7 billion of us, power. Yeah. Though, at the same time, you know, burning things for fuel, we're using some kind of, you know, biomass chamber to break things down is not as efficient as even a solar panel or something, just to rest there for a few minutes, charge up, and then go on your way. I don't think the debris robots are going to be pulling people in and like grinding them up so it can power itself when it could just go charge back at some little base station.
You, my friend, have a Wall-E mindset, and I commend you for that. But let me tell you, the plans are there to have robots.
It's possible. Yeah, in a dystopic future, we could have robots eating us.
They're going to hunt people. The Pentagon even has it, non-cooperative humans. And that's from 2008.
We're going to get to do some robot hunting. And that's going to be great, too.
And we're going to have electromagnetic guns. It's all coming down the pike. So it should be interesting. Now, coming up, actually, I want to get to this. We got a couple minutes left for the break. You guys remember that contest we had where people were making the cover songs of the what I call the Swamp Creature song now?
We love our Somalis.
We love our Somalis. We love our Muslims. Well, I got an email from one of our contestants. He was the young man who did one of the first heavy metal versions, Hugh Bannister. Anyway, he was very happy to compete, and he said it motivated him to a whole new level. He's written a 4-track EP on various topics such as the wage myth, Islam, pedophilia within the BBC, etc. And he wants to go into the studio for a month and he pushes a trolley full time. I don't even know what that means, pushing a trolley.
He works at a grocery store, so he goes and gets the carts.
Oh, so he's a cart guy. Yeah. So he can finance projects, but he set up a Kickstarter page, which we do have a link to that in the email. And guys, if you could pull up the link to that Kickstarter, he's got a video there. And he, you know, I like to see people like this get involved with arts, and this guy's very talented, so I think he could definitely pull it off. Let's see if we can give this guy a little bit of help. You can go to Kickstarter and check it out, Right Wing Political Melodic Metal 4-Song EP. And you can see the video from Mr. Bannister. and maybe start him on his way to a whole new career of right-wing metal.
Well, that's what we have to do is take over, we
have to take over the popular culture.
Yeah, exactly. And
or else they'll send robots.
Conservatives are doing a bad job of that right now. You look at all these award shows and all it is Trump bashing.
Yeah.
And then you have some people like Joy Villa who are not afraid to go speak up. But for the most part, there's not many conservatives in Hollywood now, or not many vocal ones.
No. James Woods is one of the few vocal.
They freak out over Taylor Swift at the thought that she might be a conservative.
Right, because she doesn't speak out enough.
Of it. Right, because she doesn't want to alienate any of her fan base. They're like, oh, she performs in suburban areas where there's Trump voters. Oh. It's like, okay. Does she sell out stadiums? Sure.
You just can't win with these nowadays unless it's worship Hillary Clinton.
So you've got to
that's okay.
That's the thing. You've got to take over Hollywood. You've got to take over the music industry. You've got to create stuff. So if you're talented, go out there and make things and have.
And there's no reason why we can't use Kickstarter, because the left is using Kickstarter left and right to push liberal garbage down our throats and try to take away our hard-earned money and spend it on more insurance. We'll be right back after this. You're watching The War Room with Rob Dew and Michael Zimmerman. Infowars.com/show.
Someone very profoundly once said many years ago that if fascism ever comes to America, it'll come in the name of liberalism.
You're a white male! You're a white man!
What the aging process is when the cell replicates, we lose a little bit of our telomeres. Telomeres are the little cups on the end of our chromosomes.
And when it runs out, you start dying. Secure your DNA force today at InfoWarsLife.com.
Hi there, here with Secure Team. So if you remember the other day, I posted a video about how artificial intelligence, well, in my opinion, is kind of getting out of hand to the point where the cons really outweigh the pros, in that not only do we have our computers, our phones, our televisions listening to what we say in our homes in what we thought was privacy, but we also have robots out there. If you've been following DARPA and Boston Dynamics, they are really creating some crazy things, robots that can not only walk, run, jump over things, and stand upright like a human, but also these robots that look like cheetahs. They can walk and open doors and run in packs with one another. Some really crazy stuff. And in our recent video, we were talking about now Google, as well as other companies, have created this technology that can not only copy your voice within 60 seconds, but now these artificial intelligence systems can now make phone calls on your behalf to restaurants, hair salons, virtually anywhere you would want to call and make an appointment or order something, or just call one of your family members and have a casual conversation. And so after that video, I was reminded today of a story that came out way back in 2008, 2009 is when the story broke. But I'm willing to bet that a lot of you had never heard of it, and even if you had, you probably forgot after all these years. But I kind of just, again, wanted to bring it to your guys' attention just to show you some of just the crazy stuff that the government and the military are working on as far as AI and robotics. And so back in 2009, the Huffington Post, Wired.com, and a number of other media outlets put out an article pretty much on the similar lines of, quote, military robot being developed to eat humans. And it all started when an alternative energy company began working under contract with DARPA, which, if you don't know, it's a government agency, and it stands for the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, and is a part of the Department of Defense responsible for the development of emerging technologies, basically for use by the military. So, in a nutshell, they create some pretty crazy stuff, usually used to mess people up. And so back in 2009, this company under contract with DARPA got into the development stages of a robot that didn't need a battery or a fuel tank of any kind. And they had this goal to build said military robot, which could go on endurance missions, very long missions, and feed on, quote, organic material. This organic material, which was later clarified by the company to be small wood chips, twigs, bushes, tree leaves, and other vegetation. What was even more kind of funny was the name of the robot, which was, well, Eater, or EATR, which stood for Energetically Autonomous Tactical Robot. And so the stories went on that all ITER would need for power was the biomass that it could find, like dead trees. And did I forget to mention that it also was equipped with a chainsaw for, chopping up vegetation, of course. And so when people heard about this thing, and even a lot of these mainstream news outlets, it didn't take them long to say, okay, this robot is being developed by DARPA. It's going to be used by the military on the battlefield. And so naturally, when you have a battlefield, you have bodies. And in today's post 9/11 world, most of the battlefields that we have been on are in the desert. Not much vegetation or trees or wood chips. And so, without the company even saying it, people pretty much put two and two together and said, well, what's more organic than a human body? And so there was a big uproar. Reporters began asking questions, blog posts were written, and ITER, as it was called, became, in the eyes of the public, the robot that was going to eat humans up. And of course, DARPA quickly went into damage control mode, saying, quote, "We are focused on demonstrating that our engines can create usable green power from plentiful renewable plant matter. The commercial applications alone for this Earth-friendly energy solution are enormous." But again, it comes back to, we have a robot here designed to collect organic matter. That could very well include human bodies. Obviously, DARPA is not going to come out and simply admit this, but it didn't take long for the reporters to put two and two together. And then to make matters worse, the robots would likely have been designed to be fully autonomous, giving them the ability to think and act on their own. And even as one Huffington Post reporter stated, even if it had nothing to do with humans, at some point don't all robots eventually turn on their masters and start devouring us? And well, I guess we'll just have to find out. And so, since that happened, pretty much everything went quiet about the development of this chainsaw-carrying, quote-unquote, organic matter-devouring robot. And we really don't know anything about it in all these past years, other than some brief whispers that the project was soon after shut down, which I highly doubt. And again, although this is an old story, I think that with all of the other recent revelations and the advancement of both robotic technology and artificial intelligence, stuff like this is, again, what scares me. It creeps me out, because it shows, even all the way back then, years ago, some of the stuff that they were testing, that they were developing, and where that technology could be today, being secretly used in places around the world. Again, obviously they're not going to reveal that to the public. And so, what do you guys think? Having seen my past video about Google's new AI making phone calls for you, do you still believe that the cons outweigh the pros or vice versa? Tell me down below. But in my view, I think if things continue going the way they're going, it won't be long before we see Terminators walking down the street, or at least, AI computer systems just having taken total control over our lives, so we never actually get up out of our chairs again. Everything is handled for us.
I know not what costs others, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death.
Truth Stream Media with Aaron Dykes and Melissa Melton on Unbound Radio. Well, we actually have a list of stuff here that we wanted to kind of bring up having to do with things that DARPA has come out with, because I think all the time in the news we're seeing people talk about how DARPA came up with this new thing this week and it's super awesome. It's the new, big dog robot that can throw a cinder block with a metal arm that comes out of its head. Who needs that, by the way? And so they're all the time coming out with these robots and things, and it's talking about how trendy and super cool it is. But we wanted to actually talk about some of the other stuff they're doing. And then as we're mentioning these things and talking about them, think about them all together. Think about how these interact with each other and how that affects us. Okay, so not only are they making all these robots, they've got jumping robots, swimming robots, climbing robots, they've got robots that dodge obstacles, they've got six-legged robots, there's a cheetah that's the fastest robot ever made, there's a robot ape that climbs trees, they've got a robo-ostrich they're doing lifelike humanoid robots, and they also have this weapons they come out with, like they have death ray lasers, actual death ray lasers, not FBI paid for guy in a basement building at death ray lasers, but actual ones with unlimited magazines that they're going to start putting on drones. But here's some other stuff they're also doing that you may or may not be aware of. This story also came out. They were hacking into a squid's central nervous system. They were using electric signals to force the squid to change its colors. So they were basically perfecting mind control in the squid. They're also studying our fight or flight response. They want to explore the neuroscience of our threat responses, to use neuroeconomic models to study the way we move and how that changes when we're faced with threats. So put those two things together. They can mind control with electric signals, and they're studying our fight or flight response. To me, the only reason they would need that is to be able to shut it off. Moving on, Regina Dugan came out recently. She's a former DARPA head, but she now is the leader of special projects for Motorola, which is owned by Google. And this is, she says, this is a quote, "We got to do a lot of epic expletive when I was at DARPA." And she says, now they're even doing better stuff. And she was showing her electronic tattoo that she has. So it's an electronic tattoo. It's a barcode on her arm, and she was showing that off and how that can be used to authenticate your password or authenticate you online and everything instead of using a password. So if this is not the mark of the beast, if it's not in any way, why does it seem like they're basically taking that page out of Revelations and using it? I mean, right? And she went on to say that they also have vitamin authentication, which is a pill that you swallow, and your whole body then becomes your password.
It's incredible. And just part of that technology, I know a lot of it's based on gaming theory, which probably does play into video games, but I know it principally means being able to predict your response, as you mentioned. And that means knowing the most likely options, whether it's 2, 3, 4 options, whether it's multiple choice, and basically planning for that response
and then
in a prioritized list.
On you.
I mean, maybe you saw the headline from last year in 2012, new algorithm predicts your future movements within 65 feet of accuracy. And they found that essentially we repeat the same basic movements on average over and over, go to the same basic corner store, the same job location, the same home or apartment location, same base of friends. And if they're tracking that on your cell phone or on your Facebook updates or through an implant chip, they can pretty much predict what you're likely to do next as well. And thwarting that really would take some effort, I think.
They're going to move beyond that. They're actually working on something called biometrics at a distance. So that's going to build a sensor that can remotely identify you farther away, tell you out from a crowd, sense your heartbeat through a wall. I mean, that's beyond just censoring you. But, yeah, I mean, this list, I don't even know what I should get to next. There's so many
Did you talk
horrible
about the
things
internet
on
yet?
I'm not to that part yet. Oh, yeah, they want to, let's see, what was that? They're going to learn to control a rat's brain over the internet. Actually, they already have. It says the government mind control may not be as far-fetched as it sounds. After 15 years of research, they found a way to transmit information from one brain to another, thereby controlling the thoughts of the test subjects.
And I was just going to say, admittedly, back to 1966, the very beginning of the internet was an actual DARPA project. From the beginning, it was a Department
GPS,
of Defense application. And you say, oh, I heard about university academics being the start of the internet. They're under the Department of Defense.
They're getting paid by them. And this is called BrainLink. Back at Unbound Radio, I'm your co-host, Melissa Melton, here with Aaron Dykes for TrueStream Media. And I just want to paint this picture for you, Aaron. I was talking about some of the things DARPA did before the break, and I'm getting ready to play those into an even creepier picture. Now, this is something that Obama announced, the BRAIN project. It's the brain research through advancing innovative neurotechnologies. It's an initiative that he gave $100 million to in his fiscal 2014 budget, and he announced it at the April State of the Union address. But this basically will produce pictures of your brain showing how individual brain cells and complex neural circuits interact at the speed of thought, and explore how the brain records, processes, uses, stores, and retrieves vast quantities of information, and the links between that and between brain function and behavior. And DARPA is actually working on that. And at the same time they're working on that, they're working on building robots with real brains in a different project called the Physical Intelligence Program. which is basically a Pentagon-funded team of researchers that have constructed a machine that would allow robots to act independently. And one of the guys on the thing says it's going to be looking and thinking like a human brain that they're going to put into a robot. So it goes right back to Kurzweil that we talked about last hour. So they're controlling rats' brains. They're checking out fight or flight. They're on a program right now that's President Obama's funding $100 million to, having to do with how our brains work, while simultaneously at the same time building robots that function with real brains. And then all of that you have, remember the movie Avatar with the blue people?
Oh, yeah.
Remember that? They actually also have a project, and they have creatively called it Avatar, where it's basically the same as the movie, but with robots instead of aliens. And the goal is to develop interfaces and algorithms that enable soldiers to effectively partner with semi-autonomous bipedal machines and act as soldier surrogates.
Two-legged robot destroyers, pretty much Terminator. In fact, a lot of those movies, James Cameron and Bond, are really what we can only assume are predictive programming to get the population used to those coming trends, because movie after movie comes true, and we'll probably read off some of those next time.
We're going to do that next time. Yeah, definitely. Well, it's funny you say the predictive programming, because here's the final piece of this DARPA puzzle. This is also what they're working on. It's a program called Narrative Networks, and it seeks to master the science of propaganda. It says they're going to take narratives and make them quantitatively analyzable in a rigorous, transparent, and repeatable fashion. And what they're doing here is they're studying the effects of oxytocin. So that's basically considered a love chemical. And the role of that in human thought process is being studied, and this is a quote, in an effort to enhance public messages from the U.S. military. So we're not talking about just any propaganda here, people. We're talking about high-tech, chemically enhanced, biochemically enhancing us to basically be more susceptible to government lies.
And this stuff goes actually beyond the mark of the beast. I don't know if some of this may have been predicted in the Bible. I guess it depends on how you interpret symbols. But certainly they're interested in a mark of the beast system with the centralized payment and authorization.
Cashless
They're
society.
very much pursuing the cashless society. But along the lines of Kurzweil and other prominent MIT scientists who basically been mouthpieces for where DARPA is headed and where other governmental, academic, industrial complex technologists are taking society, is towards, yes, scanning the brain. Why? Because they believe those who are chosen to be advanced, to become transhumanists, to become...
And it's not everybody. That's
to become
a small
more
list.
human than human. And that actually is where eugenics actually leads down the road, is towards transhumanism. All that is so they believe they can scan your brain if you're selected and put you into the larger centralized database. Copies of your brain will be distributed. They can be shared and read by other people in the society. And somehow you'll be supposedly at an equal footing with these advanced, intelligent machines that are actually probably going to enslave them as well.
That's the next movie script I'll be working on. Oh, wait, wasn't that kind of done in Zardoz?
It goes on forever, but Ray Kurzweil did predict it in Age of Spiritual Machines. Not a real prediction, though. It's an agenda. We're going to be back. This is True Stream Media with your host. I'm Aaron Dykes, and this is Melissa Melton.
Hi, guys.
And I don't want to be part of your counterfeit system. I don't want your counterfeit money. I don't want your counterfeit politics. I don't want to be replaced by a counterfeit robot that's supposed to imitate what I'm supposed to do. And I definitely don't want your counterfeit food. But, Melissa, you had a point you were going to make about DARPA.
I just wanted to know if you wanted to hear a DARPA fun fact, honey.
Why not?
Well, back in 2003, news surfaced the Pentagon was launching a sweeping new research project called the Embryonic Lifelong Program, which aimed to collect every single piece of information available on a person to populate a massive database with the goal to, quote, trace the threads of an individual's life. So Wired reported on this. They said the project would include every email sent or received, every picture taken, every web page serviced, every phone call made, every TV show watched, every magazine read, in addition to a GPS tracker and biomedical and audiovisual sensors to record everything a person said, heard, and saw, in addition to their medical information. And supposedly it was canceled after civil liberties advocates, they kind of complained just a little about the project's privacy implications. So supposedly that was canceled.
What's privacy? What's implication?
What's freedom? What's anything?
So we've been talking about DARPA, Defense Advanced Research Projects. I just picture them in a room playing Sting and every move you make, every breath you take. You haven't even mentioned IARPA.
Oh, IARPA. Yeah, IARPA does for the NSA what DARPA does for the military.
They do for the NSA, yeah.
Yeah, It's much more black ops. It's very hard to even find anything on what they're doing. But I know one of the projects I read about is using archival data to try and predict the future.
So they want to predict the future. They want to control the future. And they think with big data they can monitor, predict, analyze our events in real time.
I guess while DARPA's pushing the future.
I don't know.
IARPA's going to predict it. I don't know.
Technology has done a lot of bad.